Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being present for the fourth day of the Chennai Photo Biennale. And just before we move to Samar Jodha's talk, I'd like to introduce him with a short bio. Samar Jodha is a photographer and installation artist who over the last 20 years has been using photography, film, and installation art to address various issues such as development, human rights, and conservation. Among some of the projects, Samar was invited by Amnesty International to install BHOPAL A Silent Picture, a 40-foot container in a 40-foot container during the London Olympics, to showcasing OUTPOST at the 55th Venice Biennale, where Samar deployed a pictorial trope of discarded containers fashioned into habitat by miners in India's pristine northeast. He also runs Express Aspire. These photography workshops are part of an ongoing series that Samar has been conducting with underprivileged children in Asia and Africa for the past 18 years. Each workshop goes beyond honing creativity of the children and helps raise self-esteem, impart life lessons, and offer possibilities that are hard for the participants to otherwise imagine in their difficult circumstances. Awards, fundraisers, art auctions are some of the other outputs emerging from these engagements. Samar is a regular speaker for the TEDx conference. And now I'll invite Samar on stage to share his work with us. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. I know it's Monday evening, and I think we also overloaded with Photo Biennale, so I'm the last one to catch. What I'm going to do is I'll show you a small film, which is about a 7-minute film, which talks about these projects more visually, so you can relate to the kind of work which I do. I started working as an advertising photographer, and then that kind of didn't really go too far. After a point, I couldn't deal with it. So then I started doing publishing. So I did a couple of books, and then that didn't go too far. And then I basically decided that it's time to do something where I could corporatize my work, so I could get enough money out of it and do my own personal projects, because I don't really run around with sponsorships, because as you know, that's a lot of hard work. A lot of time it's so much a waste of time. But we do need the money, because it's not that simple. But this film, you will see there are 5-6 different elements. It also shows how gradually you can shift your work. And I'm really interested in talking to young professionals, because I really believe it's very easy for me to talk about all my war stories. But reality is that, when you start your career, you're a young professional, you're trying to find, your passage, going forward. So we'll run this film. I'm going to talk, we're going to run the film, and then I just wanted more a Q&A. It's not about me going on and on, because the film will really show you what it's all about.
This veteran visual artist has for over 20 years been using photography and film to convey powerful statements about issues like human rights, development, and conservation.
Well, you really wonder what is sustainability and capacity building to do with an artist. this overall gives you what I do. So I don't have to talk more about myself. If anybody has questions, please go ahead. So it'll be short and sweet.
Hi. Could you tell us more about Express and Aspire, where the workshops you conduct?
Yeah, so they are actually quite simple workshops. Thankfully now there's digital cameras, so one doesn't have to struggle with chemicals and all that. So I spend about 10 days. I do about 2 or 3 in a year. They're unfortunately quite expensive to run. I don't really work with any specific funding agencies because they come with their own agenda, and I just want to keep it more of an experience for the kids rather than, corporates trying to wear the t-shirt at times. So it's 10-day workshop, and I don't speak the language in most of these places, so I work with some local organization like a school or a church or something, and they give me the safe environment where we can plug in, because a lot of these places, they don't have schools. There are places where kids sit under, either there's a meal plan or something, so they come to school for that, and they sit under trees or whatever. So the process works is that, again, teachers would always push for the bright kid, and the one who is a favorite of the teacher. And my idea is really to pick kids who are marginalized within their group, within their class, or with the rest of the other kids. So the way it works is that I do like a drama workshop or a writing workshop, or if it's not writing, then you just get them to speak about stuff, and you can kind of figure out who are the kids who are extremely shy or they've got some other struggles going on, and you pull those kids out. You work into a smaller group of about 5 or 6 kids in each of them. So I've got 50 cameras and printer and all that stuff. I carry a lot of stationery and all that, and they, day one they are pretty shy, or they are very trigger happy because all of a sudden it's digital, so you have to block a lot of space, otherwise each of them would come back with 200-300 pictures. It would be a lot to edit. And after about 2 or 3 days you can start seeing the changes, because you make a print and then you hang it, and then the kid has to stand up and talk about the picture, and obviously he's not so confident, so won't do it, but then the other kids are all busy deconstructing it. So after 2nd, 3rd, 4th day, the child starts changing the whole approach of, including talking about why he or she has done that image. And so after 10 days, we basically do a small exhibition, which you probably saw, and that film was from Bangladesh, and the other one was in Afghanistan, where we, so we would have an assembly where these kids would arrive, and they would all, and they're all given these awards, which are basically boxes with stationery, and they go back to their classroom and redistribute that within their other mates, and especially in places where there's such little resources, as even a pencil is a lot, so that's what they get. They get a certificate and all that, and then I take these images back, the CD, and I know a couple of friends who are super rich bankers and stuff like that, so I take it back to either to London or to New York or to Dubai, and we print them, and they're pictures, smaller pictures with the kid holding that little image of whatever she's done, and we do an exhibit, and they're about $100-200. It's a great story, and people do want to wear a good t-shirt, so we end up raising $2,000-3,000 in a night, and then that money goes back to the school to buy proper supplies. So it's actually not rocket science, quite simple.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's very difficult, because I don't have the resources. I work this on my own totally. So yeah, so that gets difficult. What I do is that the teachers who get trained with me, I leave 2 cameras behind. And hopefully they'll continue working, or if they want to do something with it. For me, it's really about, the photography can be applied in so many different ways. And as a kid, I remember, I went to many different schools in many different parts of the world. And photography was something which I kind of discovered or whatever at 13, and I said, I'm going to stick to this thing. And I was a marginalized kid in my own classroom, because I didn't fit in the regular stuff. And so my attempt is really working with whether the issues I work with or even the children I work with, they're always about marginalization, kids who are actually pushed in the corner, And also, what we are doing is we're very fortunate that, when we look back at our life, we always think of those great memories as kids, whether it's the first ice cream you had, the first vacation you had, or whatever it is. And in places like these, as we know, there's such a huge struggle to survive, and that you have maybe one meal a day and stuff like that. So it's like these 10 days are, I'm just trying to create a different memory for them, where all of a sudden these kids who have never been even photographed, and all of a sudden they are photographers, and they're having fun, and childhood is about fun. Unfortunately, the politics doesn't let that happen. So yeah, so it's it's I fund it, so that's pro bono. No, it's not bono from you too. I don't know him.
Can you please tell more about the first project we saw on the video, like with skyscrapers? I believe it's Doha, or like like
right,
workers. Yeah.
Right. So that's a project in Dubai, and that's the world's tallest tower, Burj Khalifa. 2 square kilometers of a very big $5-6 billion project they had started. So I conceptualized the entire documentation of that, and during my commercial photography I used to do a lot of, this is before drones arrived, so I used to do a lot of aerial work. So it's basically those applications. A lot of the stuff went on Nat Geo and Discovery and stuff like that. But I spent a lot of time, my team rather, spent a lot of time working in SOM out of Chicago, which was the architecture firm. Then we worked with Giorgio Armani's studio in Milan for about 2.5 years, because he was putting his first hotel there. So basically, I mean, the reason I showed you that film was not just the tallest tower, but that stuff helped me fund what I do. A lot of those following projects. Now, what you saw in, that TEDx talk is that funding. That community is a disappearing community. There are very few of them left. There are about 1,500 of them left now. So I've been working with them for past 10, 12 years or so, 12 years I think now, where I've got into the capacity building. What I mean by that is I've set up a small education program where kids have been going to school. I helped build a monastery there, so that has added income to the village, revived some of the textiles. So, I went to NID, and I have friends who are in the design business. So, they would go there and work with, with their own design sensibility and the skills of the local community. Then there's a reforestry program. We also started a small ecotourism project, which is owned and run by the tribe, but unfortunately it floods a lot there. So each time, every 3 years it just drops. So I've stopped getting there. It just bleeds you. So my approach is also about my work is that, if I can, have slightly more engagement. And it's not just, pictures I do, I mean, we're all photographers, you wake somebody up and say at 3 in the morning, can you take a photo? Of course you can take a photo, because that's what we do. So for me, it was just, taking it slightly in a different direction.
Can you take us through the process and the intent of the Bhopal Gas Factory?
Yeah, sure. So Bhopal was, as we all know, I mean, there's Pablo sitting there. Some of these guys, they've done such brilliant work. I mean, I wasn't around, and I wasn't doing photography. So I went in 2000, which was 20 years of Bhopal, about 10, 12 years back. And I went for BBC for some print campaign. And that's where, spent more time, and I figured out, and I don't have the skills of doing, a lot of hardcore photojournalists do. I don't have that skill. I just can't get involved in that. So I started working, and with whatever research, the biggest thing which came out was that a lot of trains which were pulling in, and people obviously didn't know what was going on. Of course, a lot of people died even on the trains. So that was the whole thought of recreating that train journey of that night. Bhopal used to be much colder at that time, unlike now. So when you go inside this container, you've got it's a temperature control, and you feel the chill of that midnight, December 2nd, 3rd, where it's like a single-degree temperature. There's a sound piece in there, and those images, what you see are basically 3D images of the plant, which is sealed, obviously, but I've been going there for a long time, so, where the control room and, all the machinery and all that stuff was. And so when I showed it at the India Art Fair, it traveled, it came to Art Chennai also many years back at Lalit Kala. But then post that, Olympic thing was happening, and when Amnesty spoke, they saw some film somewhere. So we decided that from a 20-foot, we're going to make it into a 40-foot, a proper container. And it's designed and worked with the industrial designers. So it's, it's taken over 250,000 people till date. So it's really solidly made. and it roams around. It's a very plug and play, so it gets picked up, put on the truck, and just goes, you put it down, plug it, turn the lights on, the temperature drops, everything takes off. So, less involvement as an artist, because, me flying each time and trying to tweak the pictures and all that, it's a lot of resources. So you make something, if you make public art projects, they need to be, either they need to be very simple that you can roll up the prints and move it, or otherwise, if it's something like an experience, it needs to be very, very solid, because otherwise, it falls apart. It's a lot of resources, and obviously the organizations you work with, they put in a lot of their resources too. So, it's been on the road for past 6 years now, 6, 7 years now. No, so after we finished, I wanted to bring to Bhopal, because Bhopal has a museum now, as you know, but I just couldn't get anybody to fund it. So it's sitting in Rome, and it's costing a lot of money in the rental, but I can't really throw it away. It's kind of a little big to throw away. So the idea is to bring it to Bhopal. It's not just about bringing it to Bhopal. You need a commitment from somebody, an organization which would say that, okay, we're going to take care of it for next 5 years or something, because it requires maintenance. Carpets need to be changed and stuff like that. So that, unfortunately, I haven't got any commitment. So whenever I feel rich, then I just take it to a new town.
Do we have any more final questions? Okay. Oh.
So most of your projects are funded by external organizations. Can you just take us through the process of getting funding?
Yeah, funding is always, I think, there is no magic, whatever, silver bullet or whatever. The way I look at funding is that if you can bring a project to a certain level, out of your own resources, and resources not just about funding it, but showcasing it, it's spoken about, shown in places, written about or whatever, collaborations, for example. When you bring it to a certain level, then it's much easier to go to something, at a much larger scale. Because those days are gone that, you have this great project and you go and they'll jump on it and say, oh, let's fund it. That's not going to happen. It's very, very difficult. So, it's important that you put in your own energy and resources to pull it to a certain level before you start going and hunting for So like currently I'm working in Afghanistan on a public art project. It's taken me a 1.5 years to bring it to that level, that now I'm going around trying to get funding for it, because it really requires huge amount of money. But if I went with this great PowerPoint presentation, people are not just gonna be like writing checks. As we all know, it doesn't happen.
Samar, thank you so much
Excellent.
for sharing your work with us. And just to let you know that the next event will be curated projections, Songs of the Nusantara by Vignesh Balasingham. Thank you.
Thank you.